Today's a good day. It's mock draft day. We love mock draft day here at Daz Talks Footy. I hope you do as well. We're expanding the draft. We're going 30 picks. And in October, we're expanding it to 40. And in November, just before the actual draft, I will be doing a full draft. The entire thing. Trades included. It is going to be genuinely batshit. Let me tell you. I'm looking forward to that. I hope you're looking forward to this. September, mock draft. Here we go. Nothing else to say. Let's get into it. And as always, after the intro, I forget what I should have said in the intro, so there is just a little bit more to say, and that being thank you. A massive thank you. 1750 before the grand final was the goal, and we've smashed that. We're almost at 1800 now, which is amazing. Thank you. Keep pushing that subscribe button if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the video. It's the support is overwhelming. I usually like to think I have a good vernacular, but I'm struggling to come up with more synonyms for grateful at this point. So thank you to everyone that has jumped on board, and just quietly, these Dolphins, oh boy, NFL season's getting fun, AFL draft's getting fun. This is just a good time to be a sports fan. Well, if your team's going well, that is, let's be honest. But let's get into it. Mock draft, pick one, West Coast, Harley Reid. Trade radio comes back tomorrow, and I'm not looking forward to it. And I don't think Harley Reid's family is looking forward to it. I don't think West Coast fans are looking forward to it. I don't think North Melbourne fans are looking forward to it, because a lot of the rhetoric will be around, are they going to trade pick one? No, they're not. There's no good reason why they should. Draft him, and if he wants to be traded, go get, and I cannot state this enough, a fucking ransom for him. Moving on, Harley Reid at 1, deal with it. Is that too aggressive? That might have been too aggressive, but my point stands. Pick 2, North bid on Jed Walter, Gold Coast match it, why wouldn't you? I have a sneaky suspicion Jed Walter is going to be one of the better players in this draft. That might be a video to do, who I think the 5 best players from this draft might be. I'm definitely going to do a video on my favourites, because some feedback that I've gotten from these drafts previously has been like, Daz, you say you like everyone in this draft. And I do, because I'm not the kind of guy that shits on 18-year-olds before they've played an AFL game. But there are some that I love, so that might be a video coming soon. What's that got to do with Jed Walter? Nothing. He's going to partner Ben King. I think everyone that watches these videos knows who Jed Walter is at this point. He's the best key forward in the draft. Gold Coast sort of own him through the academy. They're going to match a bid on him. That's why they've got so many draft picks. Let's move on to North back-to-back because of the Ben Mackay compo pick. But North go Daniel Curtin here. So they should. He's 196 centimetre. He can play down back until they get their defensive stocks back. And they should just take him. If you want a 196 centimetre guy in your midfield, go for it. I don't really see the downside in North Melbourne not picking him at this point. I know there are plenty of North Melbourne fans that might want a couple of different other guys. I feel like Curtin's either going to West Coast or like pick 10 is kind of the rhetoric that I'm seeing, and that's not what I want at all. Daniel Curtin's a gun. Like him a lot. There you go, I've already said it. But I think North take him here. It's just the obvious thing to do. And at pick 4, I've got them taking Colby McKercher. I still think North are at a point now where, A, there are no key position players that fill their needs right now. They've already taken one in Curtin. And I think they've got to go best talent available over best fit. The best fit here is probably Dersma or Watson in terms of what they need, a centre forward threat. But I'm worried that North are going to miss out on A, a superstar here, but B, also, best talent available is not a bad thing if you just need talent in the door. Guys like Tom Powell, Charlie Lazaro, and even Will Phillips in a way haven't really shown they're going to be a part of that midfield for the next decade. If you think Daniel Curtin is going to be a centre-half back for his entire career, having Davies Uniacke and Jai Simpkin and a rotation of guys like McKercher, Wardlaw, Sheasel, can Braden George end up getting in there once he becomes fit and healthy in a couple of years? It's a core to build around. We no longer live in a world where 3 midfielders is all you can have. Petrarca, Oliver, and Viney might be the best 3, the best midfield trio in the league. How are they doing in prelim finals and grand finals? They're not there. They're not there. He might genuinely be the best player out of this draft, I reckon, Colby. Is it a big call potentially? Because I know how much we love Reid, and rightly so, but I'm fully buying all the Colby McKercher stock I can. Hawthorn fans, don't fret. I'm on the Zane Dersma train for the Hawks. Yep, it's simple now. Nick Watson is a freak, not denying that for a moment. But the size, the capability, the consistency that he showed at under 18 level, which I feel went under the radar a touch, is just everything that the Hawks need. You give me Ben Mackay and Zane Dersma out of this off-season at a minimum. Yes, please. Yes, please. Dynamic, kicks goals, might be able to rotate through the midfield, but he doesn't need to do that yet. We have enough of those. We have two half-forwards, Connor McDonald and Dylan Moore, that wouldn't know how to stand on the half-forward flank if it killed them. And I love them both, especially Dylan Moore. He's my favourite current Hawk, so no shade there. But Zane Dersma to the Hawks just needs to happen for mine. And speaking of needs to happen, if they can't move up in this draft here, Melbourne, I think they've just got to take Nate Caddy for largely the same reasons. They need a centre-forward threat. It's too early in the draft to go key forward here, in my opinion. They do have later picks that they can use on some better, well, not better, but some key forwards that will be valued more appropriately. This guy, I know he was centre-half forward in the under-18s All-Australian team, but the full forward was 193 centimetres. So, let's chill, shall we? He's not going to be a centre-half forward in the AFL as an 18-year-old. He's just not. But he's going to be another target. He's going to be in a good team, which I believe is key for the development of these kind of guys. When you've got some X factor, you can't walk into a shithole. And they are not walking into a shithole with Melbourne at all. And going to be a good player. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And hopefully for Melbourne fans, it's in the red and blue. But Giants fans, get up and out of your seat. You reckon Toby Bedford and Brent Daniels have been amazing at the back end of this year alongside Toby Green, Jesse Hogan and Jake Riccardi. Imagine adding Nick Watson to that GWS forward line. Holy shit. Adam Kingsley's enjoying the speed on the ball, their ability to work up and back. Watson does that in a massive way. I've got a smile on my face. It's frightening how well this fits. Sometimes you can be tempted when you're doing your draft order to be like, this fit works here, so let's kind of finagle our way around it. I can't do that. I really can't. I sort of have my finagled order, and then I have the one that I present. And Watson, in this case, ended up in both. So I'm happy to put my Dolphins hat on and make a giant call here, and that is that Nick Watson at the Giants. I love the fit. I don't understand how he couldn't. And this kid has got Mercurial written all over him. Geelong, Connor O'Sullivan, they got to take the key defender, in my opinion. Yes, they're going to need midfielders. Yes, their next draft pick after this is pick 81. It doesn't matter to me. They've just got to take O'Sullivan. They need that tall player. Can play at both ends of the ground, but they're going to lose Radigalia. Hawkins is still getting on. They need to start getting tools in now. If you've watched my first round picks that need to be traded video, you'll know that Geelong trading back is something that I'm a massive fan of, because they could still end up with, say, an Ollie Murphy and a midfielder. You know, Darcy Wilson potentially, someone along those lines. Caleb Windsor maybe. But if this is the pick they've got to take O'Sullivan. It's as simple as that. And I know some Geelong fans, especially on Twitter, aren't a massive fan of this, but suck it up, Princess. He's the best fit. He's extremely talented. He's a very good footballer, and he's exactly what Geelong need. If he's there, select him. Not that hard a choice, I don't think. And 9, North match the bid for Riley Sanders. Now, it is still unconfirmed over whether North are going to be able to get access to Sanders, but if they're not, I still think the 9 to 12 range is where he's going to end up anyway. But I will say, the club that could use him the most would be Essendon or Adelaide, who are going to be around this pick anyway. So, take that with a grain of salt. But North will be hoping he gets there. It is unlikely that McKercher and Sanders would both be brought into this North Melbourne midfield, so you might be thinking, why have you mocked them both to North at this point? I am still working under the assumption that Sanders is going to be bid on and still going to be accepted. Averaged something like 36 disposals in the Carnival and looks an extremely classy player. And why would anyone at North turn down class? I don't know. And Essendon, Darcy Wilson would be a really nice fit, more of an outside player. They still seem a big-bodied midfielder short, the Bombers. I think the more that I've kind of re-watched some of their games in the back end, yes, Merritt, Parrish do their thing. Zach does it extremely class, in an extremely class way, I should say, and deserved his All-Australian spot. Over Libba, though, interesting, but I'm still going with, I like the fact that Merritt ended up with an All-Australian blazer. I still think they need a bigger body. Now, Wilson is not that bigger body player, but what he will bring is speed, class, and good ball use. The other thing that Essendon are missing, just because you might have a list hole, even for the Bombers, you might even say key forward. I would agree with you. Why does your first selection need to fix your biggest problem? It doesn't have to. Other selections for the Bombers can help fix these things. You're no guarantee where you go in the draft. Ask Hawthorn with their late selections. Nick Larkey and Mitch Lewis, right? Nick Larkey is a star. Top 3 in the Coleman. Mitch Lewis, Hawthorn fans are hoping if he can have some consistent years without bloody injuries, might win a Coleman medal one day. They were taken in the same draft in the 70s. So, Bombers fans, relax. You can still get these guys later in the draft. Get some good ball users in that side. Darcy Wilson is that. So, there you go. Gold Coast, they match another bid, this time for ruckman Ethan Reid. And if I was the other Gold Coast ruckman who is young, that being Ned Moyle, I would be seeking opportunity elsewhere quickly. If Matt Flynn does end up going from the Giants to the Eagles, then you might be looking at a Giants spot. Only because Kieran Briggs gets a little bit banged up. But if you want to be the number one ruckman, most teams have already got one. So West Coast, you'd argue, would be a good spot because Bailey Williams, the Eagles see him as a forward ruck, so I'd recommend him doing that. But when you've got Jared Witts and you've got Ethan Reid coming in, you are number 3 on the depth chart. I don't care how good of a ruckman you are. You're not better than the captain, and they're going to match a bid in the top 15 at least, and in this case 12. Why wouldn't you look at opportunities elsewhere? I know Mabior Chol might go, but he's still going to be number 3 on the depth chart at 22 years old, and you've dominated the VFL. Something to think about. In terms of Ethan Reid, he's the first or second best ruckman in this draft. He's not on the open draft market, so if I was the Crows, I would be bidding on him, because if they for some reason said no, Adelaide get the best ruckman in the draft, which would be really good for them. So, yeah, go ahead and do that. Crows, Caleb Windsor, they need outside run in my opinion. Yep, Laird, Dawson, these guys, Sloan when they roll through the midfield, Matt Crouch later in the year. Awesome contested players. Dawson, extremely classy on the outside. Why wouldn't you get a little bit more of that? I still think this is kind of no man's land for the Crows. Trading up and getting one of Zane Dersma or Nate Caddy, or even trying to trade up to get Colby McKercher, should be the goal of the Adelaide side. Now, we know that they are going to try and get Marby or Chol and potentially pick 4 as some sort of salary dump. Would be the biggest win-win of all time. Would Colby McKercher get to that pick in a couple of months' time? Extremely difficult to know, but Windsor at this spot would be perfect. Outside player, really good kick, underrated speed, and reportedly, from some people that know, that have managed to tell me, one of the better blokes as well. So credit to you, Caleb, and the people that raised you. And to the Crows would be a really nice fit here. For the Bulldogs, we're going to go James Leake. They need intercept defenders. I've been really big on Will Patton to the Bulldogs, but they're going to be able to take someone whose draft stocks are higher, who plays a similar type of game. The Bulldogs have apparently inquired about a certain Hawthorn defender by the name of Jack Scrimshaw. James Leake does remind me of Scrim a little bit. Maybe a little bit better in the air, maybe not as tidy by foot, but a fit for the Dogs here would be absolutely beautiful, in my opinion. But again, this is the Bulldogs we're talking about, and considering he is an intercept defender, Bevo would probably try and turn him into a half-forward flanker that touches it 4 times, so what do I know? Gold Coast match again, Jake Rogers, bit of a small midfielder, but again, he's gone up in their academy, he's got uber talent, and Gold Coast are just going to match the bid. I do feel for the Gold Coast Academy boys, because I feel like I don't really talk about them all that much, because we know they're just going there. But plays his role beautifully, real mature head on him, had a really nice few games in the Carnival as well. So Jakey Rogers to the Suns is just going to happen. Get to the Swans, Ollie Murphy, they need a key defender. They need a key defender badly. But Ollie Murphy to the Swans just makes an uber amount of sense. He's one of the better key defenders in the league, I was going to say. Wowee. In the draft, my goodness. And fills the list hole for the Swans beautifully. He kicks the ball really nicely, loves beating his opponent, and he's a good one-on-one defender. And I think that's kind of becoming a lost art when it comes to assessing how good these defenders in the draft really are. Back to the Giants once again. Harry DeMartia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Someone will inevitably crucify me in the comments if I don't get that right. But another midfield forward. Doesn't need to go through the midfield to start his career. Extremely crafty player. The Giants don't have a lot of list needs. They really don't. They especially don't really need them down back. Some defensive players would be really, really nice, but they've gotten this far in the season by playing the way they play. And in my opinion, DeMartia fits that beautifully, perfectly. Love it. Kicks goals, finds the footy, doesn't really waste the disposal, and has got a little bit of chicken with his head cut off at times from what I've seen, but I like that. And an underrated set shot technique as well. Again, from what I've been able to see, I like it, and I like it at the Giants as well, and I think he's going to be one of those that flies under the radar. We could see earlier than we think if he ends up at a club like the Giants. Bulldogs match a bid for Jordan Croft here. Yes, they've already got a very, very tall forward line, circa Norton, Jamara Ugle-Hagan, Sam Darcy, depending on where he plays, but with Jordan Sweet going out the door, you'd expect Sam Darcy to be either probably a key defender or a ruckman, depending on what happens with Tim English for the future. But when you've got a kid who's looks like a pretty good key position forward on your doorstep, why wouldn't you? I'd expect a club maybe like Essendon to maybe bid on Croft earlier than expected, make the Dogs pay a premium, but this is just where he falls here. If your only criticism of this mock draft is where I've got bids coming in, I will take that in a big way. So there you go. Saints, Ari Schoenmaker is where I've got this pick going. The Saints are getting rid of Dougal Howard for reasons that aren't really made public at the time of recording, really, and they've just delisted Oscar Adams as well, which means they are in the market for a key defender, and he is one, and one that I think will go earlier than a lot of people expect because, again, he fits a need for a lot of clubs. The Saints did struggle at times in containing key forwards, and considering their centre forward play has actually been okay for a Ross Lyons side, who, yes, can sometimes struggle to score, but I'm of the opinion some of that is delivery inside 50 and a lot of it was injuries. So I think using your first pick to defend is something that Ross Lyon will want to do, and Schoenmaker fits the bill beautifully. Won't need to take the number one defender. You've got guys like Josh Battle and the like down there to handle all of that, and I think he'd be a really nice pickup for the boys at Moorabbin. Colton Tholstrup. Made sure I said that right, made sure I said it correctly, and we love it. Another centre forward player. The Blues, another offensive threat's not going to kill him. He's not tall enough to be classified as a key position player, and he's going to add a little bit more X factor to that forward line. Now, again, if you've seen my video on what first round picks should be traded, you know that I'm a fan of the Blues potentially trading back and getting a 2024 asset as well, but they would be tempted with a kid like this. He's got the hair that would get the Blues fans on board straight away. He's got the smartness around goals, and if the Blues do need a little bit of late quarter, late half, late game midfield burst, he'll be able to provide that with some years in the system as well. So by no means is this a bad pick by the Blues in this spot. I'm just saying if I was the Blues, I would be taking calls on the pick. But if their consolation prize is a guy of this quality, that's a win for the Navy Blue. The Hawks match a bid for Will McCabe. What could he be? He's got the beautiful hands that kind of remind you of James Sicily. Now, Denver Granger Barris was kind of playing a Sicily role, and that ain't working, so he's not going to be doing that. He doesn't have the frame yet to be a centre-half back, so do you just put him on ice for a couple of years? Not sure. He's got a beautiful hands and he's a beautiful user. Could he be the kind of wingman circa Nick Cox at Essendon and what he was drafted for originally before being put behind the ball? Could he play as a third forward, potentially, as a taller guy who can roam that forward line athletically, kick the ball beautifully, and provide a foil for Mitch Lewis as the Hawks continue to try and find forward half tall players to impact the scoreboard that aren't just Mitch Lewis coming off a sprained ACL injury? Who knows? But the Hawks apparently love him, and that's all we like to see. So first 20 picks done. We're extending this to 30. Fingers crossed you've enjoyed so far. Let's get into the final 10. Melbourne, Ashton Moyer, they need forward half players. I don't know what to tell you. The guy could be anything. He was supposed to be top 5 just 6 months ago. He's apparently not that now. He struggled a little bit at times this year. Draft stock may be down. But so was Braden Georges last year, and North love the kid that they've got there. So, not really a downside for the Ds. I don't expect them to take all 3 of their picks in the top 30 here, but again, this mock draft isn't about trades. I think the Ds need to be looking at key forwards. They really do. Problem is, they're probably going to have to go for a pre-agent, and I don't think there are many that are going to be willingly just upping and going who don't really have a contract. So, you know, do they try to fill that void? I've heard some people say Tom Lynch. I've heard some people say go chase Norton. That's what I would be doing. But it's going to be interesting. But at this point in time, if Melbourne keep this pick, getting an electrifying X-Factor talent to pair alongside Cozzy Pickett, that's a win in my book. Collingwood, Archer Reid, take a centre-half forward. They could win a flag, the Pies. They probably will win the flag, and I'll probably look stupid. But they need one. I mean, how do you criticise a potential premiership team? It's very hard to say, but I mean, you just need one, don't you? My goodness. And Archer's there. So, Collingwood, do that. I don't have anything else to say here. Just please take one. I don't know. This is the most purist about footy I've been in quite a while, I feel. But just take him. My goodness. West Coast, let's go the local lad, Riley Hardiman. Some class. He's beautiful. Harley Reid, getting me Reeds mixed up here. There's 3 of them in this top 30 with Ethan included as well. But Harley Reid's going to be a midfielder forward impact player. Hardiman's speed off the halfback line is going to be awesome for the Eagles in this spot. Local lad as well, so for those that give a shit about the go-home factor, even though West Coast don't really lose uber talented WA guys, or non-WA guys for that matter. Not really, not recently. I know someone will come up with an example or two in the comments, but Scotty Lysette and Lewis Jetta, even though Lewis Jetta actually came from the Swans, that example doesn't work either, but there's not too many of them out there. So I'm backing in their culture to keep these guys no matter where they're from, but when there's a local talent that's this classy, this good by foot, and this quick, I mean, you just snap him up, don't you? Crows here, I really like the Archie Roberts fit here for the Crows. Again, you want someone classy a little bit with their chicken with the head cut off, because Adelaide are on the rise and I have them as a top 4 side this year. If you haven't seen that video, you can check that out as well, where I detail why Adelaide will be a top 4 side next year. I like it. Again, could be anything, and you can kind of take a risk on talent versus output. Now, that's not to say that Archie's only had 2 good games in an entire season and you're just hoping he comes good. He's been quality throughout the entire year. He's got some underrated toughness about him. I really like what he can bring to the table. And a club like the Crows in an upward trajectory, he's not going to be asked to do too much too early in his career. And for the way that he plays the game, I believe that is key. And the Crows walk out of this top 30 with 3 really good kids. So if you're a Crows fan, I hope you're excited about this mock draft as much as I am for you. And I'm not a Crows fan. Freo, Logan Morris. Yep, you've got Jai Amos, you've got Josh Tracy, and you've got Matt Taberner, who is somehow still alive after all the injuries that he's had. Morris isn't a key forward, but he is a guy that hits up at the ball. Carrier is a beautiful kicker goal, and he's exactly what Freo need. He is the bridge guy between your Sam Switkowskis and your Lockie Schultzes and those young key position players that we talked about. Another forward is what Freo need. They need to not draft defenders, really. And they've got enough midfielders, considering they've got Matty Johnson, who's playing on a wing when he's not a wingman, and Neil Erasmus, who's been playing across half forward when he's been able to get into the senior side when he's a midfielder. Sarong, Brayshaw, they're still young as hell. Hayden Young could probably rotate through that midfield. They need to have the balls to train him as a midfielder for the entire offseason. The Dockers, and he could be an All-Australian next year, Hayden Young, with the talent that he's got. They don't need a midfielder. Go get a forward player. He's a forward player. Simple as that. And one of my favourites, he'd probably appear on the top 5 as well. Sorry, Hawks fans, I'm about to make you very upset, but Changquath Giath's brother, Chew, is going to be off the board here. The Swans are going to take him for 2 reasons. One, the Swans really like taking our kids. They took Cooper Vickery last year in the Josh Weddle trade when Hawthorn fans, including myself, were kind of surprised that he didn't end up outside the 40, that the Hawks could match a bid on him. But we wish him all the very best. Injury-riddled season for Cooper. Fingers crossed we can see him next year. But TJ, as opposed to CJ, ended his year really, really well, playing across half-back and through that midfield. But he's got the athletic profile and the ability to really indoctrinate himself into the Sydney culture really well. He won't be pigeonholed into one role. He'll learn the Sydney way, and I think they do wonderful things with him. So it hurts me as a Hawthorn fan, but you're not watching a Hawthorn fan's mock draft. You're watching a mock draft done by someone who barracks for Hawthorn. That is the difference. I'm not looking after any team here. If he's on the board at Sydney's pick, I'd be shocked if they didn't take him. Went early on the Crows, hadn't actually done their 3rd pick yet, but I know they've already taken a wingman, so this pick might seem a bit weird, but Joel Freyer would be the man that I would take in this spot. Windsor can become an outside midfielder probably, but Freyer's got the length. He's quite tall, over 190 centimetres. Good foot skills. I worry about his pace a little bit at times, but again, I'm not here to go, this player can't do anything. Number one, I'm 8 years older than these guys, and I'm shit compared to them. So why the hell would I sit here and go, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this? Number one, it's not true. And number two, it's bullshit for someone who's not played AFL at a professional senior level to comment on 18-year-olds and what they can and can't do. And again, he's the kind of quality player and a quality person that the Crows would just thrive in. I feel like some of you think I'm an Adelaide fan. I'm a fan of Adelaide, but I'm not an Adelaide supporter. But in this spot, it works. It really works. And that beautiful ball use to help a forward line that is just going to be stacked for the next 4 years is just a sight to behold, and that's what he would bring to the table. Melbourne here again. I'm going best talent available, and I think at this spot, Charlie Edwards is the man that fits that bill. Of these top 30 guys, probably the guy I've done the least amount of research on, so I do apologise to Charlie for that. But again, you'd be rocking up to a football club in a good spot. Considering the guys that have already departed from the D's already, I can see him coming in, developing his craft, and he's the kind of guy that they would see where they're at. Pretty clever player, uses the ball quite nicely. I'm looking forward to doing a further deep dive on him once we get into it. But watching his highlights and watching what he's been able to do in a deeper dive kind of way, he kind of just seems like a Melbourne player. So, look, 1 out of 30 of these picks is purely based on vibes. What can I tell you? Yeah, let's, Sydney pissed off Hawthorn fans, so why not Richmond piss off some West Coast fans? I got them taking Lance Collard here, the next generation academy prospect out of West Coast, and look, they need to score a little bit more. Shea Bolton needs to get into that midfield as much as he can with Taranto and Hopper, so having a guy in that front half, not that I'm suggesting that Collard is going to be the next Shea Bolton, no, but he's the kind of guy that operates best in the front 60 metres of the ground, so when you've got a guy with as much X factor as Shea Bolton does doing his thing in the midfield, you're still going to need smaller players around the fall of the ball to create a contest, and that is what Collard is able to do. Richmond like blooding their youngsters early, seeing what they've got. I feel like he would acclimatise himself well to senior footy. Sorry, West Coast fans, because he looks like a gun, but Richmond would be, I think, nearly foolhardy not to take him here. He looks like a good player. Richmond need all the good players they can get, and considering they don't have a first-round pick this year, good talent available, feels a need, good pick. And to end this draft, we go to Brisbane, and Brisbane pick up Mitch Edwards here. Now, I know some of you are high on the Will Green bandwagon. I am too, by the way, watching more and more of him. I've still got Edwards as a number 2 ruckman, but how many clubs here really need a ruckman? Now, you might be shouting to yourself Adelaide, but we don't know that yet. And considering that Adelaide don't need to take a ruckman at this very point in time, right, there are still going to be ruckmen on the board after this pick. If the draft did manage to go this way, which, by the way, is borderline impossible to get 30 things right in a row is ridiculous. I'm not claiming that every one of these would be right. These are my picks and what I would do if I was these clubs in this spot. You've still got, at the end of this draft, Will Green, and you've still got Taylor Goad. 2 pretty good ruckmen. Adelaide would be able to work future assets in and snap one up. So let's talk about Brisbane. I know Oscar McInerney isn't really going anywhere, but Darcy Fort could look for more opportunities. They need some ruck depth. When you've got a guy as talented as this ready to go, why wouldn't you give him the 3 years it takes to develop and see what you've got? So I don't think Brisbane can turn this down. I really don't think they can. But that's it, guys. That is the September mock draft. 30 picks, just over 30 minutes. Fingers crossed you are able to watch as much of it as you can. It helps me out a lot the longer you watch. Fingers crossed you've liked the video. If you liked the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. So close to 1,800, so let's smash that out of the way and work our way towards 2,000. Can we get it done before grand final day? It would be amazing. It really would. We'll see how we go. Maybe we'll aim for 1,900 before grand final day. But hey, whether it's 1, whether it's 100, jump on board. I'm grateful for every single one of you. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck if you barrack for any of the preliminary final teams. For the record, I'm going to be boring and say Collingwood, Brisbane go into the granny. I know I've seemed like I've been going really away from the underdogs since the Port Adelaide video, but hey, Brisbane at home are going to be pretty hard to stop. If anyone can, it could be Carlton. The Michael Voss storyline is really interesting. But yeah, no disrespect to the Giants, but I think the Pies get it done reasonably easy. Take care, guys. Fingers crossed you enjoyed. I will see you after the preliminary finals. Goodbye.